Stop! Solar family, you know what time it is. We back in the supreme natural intelligence, sacred culture, sanctuary once again to uplift your mind and consciousness, to enlighten your world with the high sciences of divine knowledge of self. So I warmly invite you to dive in and embrace the knowledge and wisdom that is going to be dropped today in part 3 as it pertains to Temple Code 101, Esoteric Insights and Foundations. So I warmly invite you to listen keenly and listen razor sharply, because you're about to get that true knowledge, that true wisdom, that true understanding, equal standing, overstanding, and outstanding once again. Because as always, and as usual, you know the ritual. We are about to hit that colossal, juggernaut monstrosity, grand slammer home run, bringing all this knowledge and wisdom all the way and that is the fire of truth. So let's get to the matter at hand and get where we left off. All right. The core principle, the temple, equals the human being embodied, the art of higher perceptual awareness and transcendence. So let us get back to the slide that we left off in part 2 so we could begin part 3. And remember, we're recalibrating your mind. We're getting your mind attuned to the high knowledge and esoteric information and insights they don't want you to know. The shadow powers keep this knowledge hidden in the dark because they don't want you to be empowered. They want you to stay weak and ignorant. That's why they do not promote information like this. They want to promote the ratchetness to you, the distractions that break your energy into pieces and infractions. They don't want you to rise. They want to keep you in the dirt of ignorance. They want to keep you dumbed down. I'm here to empower you, to elevate you, and to make you more aware and enlightened of what's truly going on. So let's get initiated with this spark to create the tempests, the storms, and form the lightning bolts and thunder that is going to shake the ignorance out of your mind, my brothers and sisters. And also, you know this channel is about blazing up the fire. We have to purify your mind in the fire of truth. So let us begin where we left off in the PowerPoint presentation, professionally delivered by yours truly, Natural Nathan, the Radiant One, your solar sovereign son. So this is where we left off. So, the sacred binary of creation 101. The core concept in sacred symbolism, 0 equals Femi-9, energetic principle. 0 represents the womb, void, space, potential, receptivity, wisdom, intuition, and infinite possibilities and potentials. 1 equals the masculine plus energetic principle. So what you need to understand here is that the feminine represents the negative principle, the receptive. Masculine is the positive principle, the one that takes action when it comes to energetic flow. 1 represents intelligence, reason, rays from the sun, that light that structures and organizes you with intelligence, direction, initiation, structure, order, organization, as I mentioned, penetration, focus, and active elemental force. Together, 0 plus 1 equals creation. Void plus intent, space plus energy, receiver plus transmitter, frequency plus vibration. So if you notice, masculine and feminine principles, 0 feminine, 1 masculine. The line principle, the lightning, is the masculine. The feminine, the spiraling principle, is feminine, the spiraling principle. So now you get the idea. Void is the feminine, space feminine, receiver feminine, frequency feminine. Intent is the masculine. Energetic action is the masculine. Transmitter is the masculine. Vibration is the masculine. In other words, wave. There is no straight lines in nature. It's technically the closest thing to a line is going to be the wave. While the feminine is the spiraling, is the magnetism. Feminine is the magnetism. Masculine is electricity. Electricity. Next slide. Oh yeah, well, before I go to the next slide, one more thing that I need to bring forward when it comes to the clarity. Feminine is not exclusive to women alone. Just as masculine is not exclusive to men alone. Well, as we live in this physical world, we have genders. But as you raise yourself to a higher level in the spiritual realm, there is no gender. It's just principles that you embody, characteristics and attributes that you embody. There is no gender. So if a man embodies some of the feminine principles, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as they're not excessive with it. Because a man should be operating in wisdom. They should be operating in receptivity. I mean, they should be operating in listening, the art of listening. They should be using their intuition. They should be accessing their potential and possibility of utilizing their abilities and skills and making themselves better. Of course, a masculine one should be doing that. Just the opposite for the feminine. A feminine woman should be intelligent. A feminine woman should be using reason and direction. But and using structure and order. But primarily, a feminine principle energy is embodied in a woman. A woman's primary principle is feminine, because that's what the body has an affinity for. Masculine, a man has an affinity for masculine energetic principle. And the recessive principle in a man would be the feminine, as is the feminine's recessive principles would be the masculine. So you have both masculine and feminine. You have to let go of the gender thing, because it's about principles. It's about energetic polarities. Men and women use both energetic polarities. But as I mentioned before, feminine predominantly embodies the energetic principle of feminine energy, while the man embodies the infinity of masculine energy. Keep that in mind. And then the opposite is the recessive in the man, and the opposite is the recessive for the woman. So now that you got that clear, let's move forward now. The Sacred Binary of Creation 101 continued. This symbolic polarity appears in ancient temple architecture, sacred geometry, cosmology, yin and yang systems, electrical polarity, biological reproduction, binary code in computing, mystical philosophy. Use energetic principles of 1 and use energetic principles of 0. Keep that in mind. So 0 represents off, represents nothing. 1 represents active, on. So energy is active in action. 0 represents neutrality, neutral, off. Feminine principle is neutral, off, while masculine is on, direct action, energetic movement, vibration, and action. So the wave, or should I say the spiraling of 0 and 9, the feminine equals 9 principle. 0 and 9, because these numbers are feminine, primarily feminine. 0 and 9 primarily have a feminine type of energy, what sets the spiraling. 0, the feminine, and 9, principle. Symbolic characteristics. And the reason why 9 and 0, because obviously it takes 9 months for a woman to give birth. So it takes 9 months for a woman on average. On average, keep that in mind, on average, most women on average give birth in 9 months as they're building the new life form as they're building the universe. It takes at least 9 months in a human vessel. And the womb represents what? The void. The womb, the lower down, the cipher that they have, the hole that they have, the vagina, that's the old principle. That's the womb. Symbolic characteristics. The void, cosmic womb of emanation and creation. The void, cosmic womb of emanation and creation. 0 represents emptiness, containing all potential and possibilities. 0 represents emptiness, containing all potential and possibilities. Remember, we live in a universe that operates in cycles and seasons, and they all move cyclically. They all move cyclically within a spiral. When you incorporate evolution and revolution, it actually spirals. 0 is just the simplification of everything because it represents the omniverse that embodies all potential, all possibilities. That's what the 0, the void, the womb represents. The flow and fluidity of life. That's how life flows. In spirals, it moves in waves and spirals. So 0 represents emptiness containing all potential possibilities. Example, the womb before birth, deep space before stars emerge, silence before sound. Silence before sound. Remember, woman represents the void, thought. And then in order to make it move in action, vibration is sparked. Electromagnetism, vibration, frequency, oscillation, resonance creates the word. And the word becomes physical, and that word further condenses and crystallizes into gases, liquids, and solids, as we see in universes. Plasma, ether, gases, liquids, solids. Or should I say, let me put it in order for you. Magnetism, electricity come together, electromagnetism, that sparks light and sound. In other words, scientific words, photons, phonons. Ether / plasma, the space and the higher energetic gases, intelligent gases, the higher intelligent gases, than the lower gases, liquids, and solids. That's what our universe is composed of. So silence before sound. It is nothing that contains everything. Pay very close attention to this and highlight this point. It is nothing that contains everything. So it's telling you that there's no such thing as nothing. So let me break this down to make it very obvious for you. Nothing is the potential and possibility of everything that can exist in the universes, multiverses, and within the omniverse in totality. It is the embodiment of every angle and degree throughout the cycles and ciphers within the sphere, total embodiment of life. Light, information, frequency, energy. Life is light, information, frequency, energy. Live is light, information, vibration, energy. Also, I could represent intelligence. So it could either be information or intelligence. Information is internal, shaping into action. Internal shaping and forming into action. That is what information is. Intelligence is the gathered knowledge and wisdom through thinking and thought to create things through imaginations and make it manifest. Images in action. Image in action is imagination. Image in action. That's what the Most Highs have done. They have created life in their express image through all the diversity of life in all its forms. Raw materials to all forms of life within the multiverse. So they could understand and experience themselves by running an experiment, by lowering their Most High status through division, through their unified consciousness. They dove into themselves, because that is what divine is when you break it down. Divine when you break it down means to dive inside your consciousness to create reality. Remember that the Most High is the embodiment, the totality of everything that could possibly and potentially exist. So getting back to nothing. Nothing is the potential and possibility of everything. So in other words, nothing is everything that cannot yet be discerned and seen yet. When something comes, then you could start seeing something taking shape and form, and then you could kind of call it a name and say this and that. And then when more things come into existence, a bunch of variety comes into existence, then becomes everything. Everything becomes individual, that could be discerned easily according to what you want to call it. In English, we call whatever. We call this broadcast through the we call this broadcasting through the internet. That's what we decide to call the name this technology. That's just an example what we do with this language through the word. So we can name whatever creation whatever we want. It just depends on whoever created it, what they decide to name it. But that's what it ultimately is. Nothing is the potential and possibility of everything. That's unseen, undiscerned. That cannot be comprehended yet, because it's happening all at the same time. So in order for us to see what's within the nothingness, you have to project and reflect the different light spectrums, the colors, out from the darkness, the void. Because when you look into pure blackness, you can't see anything. You can't tell what's going on. You can only tell what's going on when the white light, when an opposite polarity, which is the white light, when that shines through, it carries all the color spectrums with it. Because it holds it. White holds all the colors and makes them discernible through the crystallization of the projection. Crystals allow light to bend, and this allows us to see all the color spectrums within the limited range that we could see. Roy G. Biv, which is red, orange, yellow, green. Notice that green is in the center. It's the balancing principle. You notice that Almighty Nature is mostly green. It's the balancing principle. That's why nature's green, because it balances you. It brings harmony and peace and tranquility back to you. That's why within the rainbow spectrum, G's in the center. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Those are the color spectrums that we primarily see as human beings, although there's a far more colors that are beyond our range. After indigo, it begins going darker and darker and darker and darker till it goes back to pitch black. The same applies to red. Red, it seems like it's the starting color, but it actually isn't. If you go in the reverse, it's going to go back to black as well. Remember, the first thing that was here was this infinite darkness and blackness before anything came into existence. Infinite darkness and blackness. And it was just waves of water, fluidity in blackness. That's the unified consciousness. of all things. That's the Most High's unified state. That is the nothing, the so-called nothing. Because everything is one. Everything is moving in unity, in synchronicity, within a united field. Unified is the united field. You notice how these words break down? You got to pay attention how I break this down, brothers and sisters. This is deep stuff. I break this down thoroughly. So now that you understand, equal stand, overstand, and outerstand, when I'm talking about when I say nothing, so there is no such thing as nothing. Nothing is a possibility and potential of everything. Undiscerned and unseen. When something comes, then we could start to decipher what it is. When everything comes, then we see a bunch of variety and differentiation of many different forms of light crystallizing into different forms. The way we see on the earth plane right now, we have all these different variations. That's the crystallization of light through sacred geometry, which is the architecture of all shaping and forming of all creation. Sacred geometry is an organization of energy, vibrations, frequencies, and oscillations and resonances that come together for a specific function and purpose. Shape provides and donates systems and functions. Shape donates systems and functions and how something works. So every shape that we know of has a purpose in creation. It creates the systematic function in how life works. So receptive energy, we're still in feminine principle. Receptive energy, the feminine principle receives, holds, nurtures, and transforms associated qualities, intuition, emotion, energy in motion, motion energy, energy in motion, motion energy, that is a feminine principle. Creativity, feminine principle. Magnetism, feminine principle. Primarily, I should say, primarily. Masculine can embody these two to a certain extent, but it's primarily feminine principle. And it's not exclusive to genders. Gender is an illusion. There is no gender in higher realms. There's only principle, and there's only energetic principles and duality and polarity principles that only exist. There is no gender. That's an illusion. You could only embody a certain frequency and vibration, and then when that manifests on earth, you become a vibration of man or a vibration of woman. But when you get to the higher dimensions, you're not limited to a gender. So, a woman is fluidity, or in other words, water, or any fluid. It's the flow of things. That's a woman principle, a feminine principle. Because it flows in spiral waves, right? That's a feminine principle. Rhythm is a feminine principle. Cycles, circle, sphere is a feminine principle. Next slide. And we're going to be concluding soon with this. I just want to finish the feminine principle and then we're going to conclude. I don't want to make the videos too long. Feminine continued. Feminine principles continued. Circular geometry. Zero is visually circular. Sacred symbolic forms, circles, spheres, eggs, spirals, toroidal fields. The circle symbolizes eternity, continuity, wholeness, protection, infinite cycles. The feminine, nine principle continued, lunar, which is the moon cycle, lunar, and we know that money, the etymology of money is the moon. Lunar and water symbolism. Often connected to the moon, tides, water, darkness, gestation, hidden wisdom, water adapts and flows, soft yet powerful. Sacred geometry associations, Vesica Pisces. This image here represents the symbolicness of the Vesica Pisces geometry, which means intersection of two circles equals symbol of birth and emergence equals foundation of creation. Flower of life, circular repeating pattern representing interconnected creation. Spiral, growth, expansion, evolution equals revolution. The Vesica Pisces explained. The Vesica Pisces is a geometric shape formed by intersection of two circles with the same radius, where the center of each circle lays on the circle. I don't like to say lies. I prefer to say is circle lays or is foundational on the circumference of the other, often called a mandorla, Italian for almond. This shape has symbolized the intersection of the spiritual and physical worlds, fertility and divine proportion for thousands of years. Key aspects of the Vesica Pisces, definition and shape. It is lens-shaped figure, specifically an almond shape created by overlapping two circles. The Latin name translates to bladder of a fish. Mathematical significance, proportions, the ratio of its width to its height is squared 3 to 1. Geometry construction, it is the foundation shape used to construct equilateral triangles, squares, and various polygons in sacred geometry. That's the image up close to give you an example of what we're talking about here. And this is basically a tribal symbol representing the feminine and masculine principles working together. The gold print diagram symbol of masculine and feminine principles, united sacred energy, exchange, and communion. Just symbolic tribal symbol. So you have an idea of how masculine and feminine work together. Higher state and lower state of existence. So we're going to end here and we're going to continue the masculine principle another time. So anyways, brothers and sisters, thanks for watching. And as always, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, because this is about empowerment. It's about enlightenment of your consciousness and mentality. The shadow powers don't want you to know this information and knowledge. That's why they keep not promoting it. They're not sending out notifications, and they're doing it on purpose. Because they know people are interested in awakening to this knowledge, but they purposely do this. So kindly share the video and waken the masses up so they can make a positive change in their life, so they could instill themselves with the power and tools necessary so it could be used in their life in dynamic, radical action. My brothers and sisters, that is the fire of truth and nothing but the whole, living, unified truth. Until next time, because you gotta wake up, my brothers and sisters. Until next time, awaken your mind and get your behind back to the organic, into that mainframe of a mighty nature, which is the collective consciousness, the unified field of the divine, the great vine, derived from the vine of which you get your true information, knowledge, wisdom, and supreme natural intelligence from. Listen to reason, rays from the sun, and listen to knowledge and wisdom. Stay tuned and stay sitting on the edge of your seats for part 4 as it pertains to Temple Code 101, Esoteric Insights and Foundations, DivIne, Divine Knowledge of Self. Enjoy the rest of your evening, my brothers and sisters. Let's go. Light it up.
Check it, listen, coming through, call your bun. I'm an intellectual to the precise decimals, mathematical root radicals. So see this, I mean this, the fire of truth. From the sheer might, the fire of truth.
Ooh! What? Slow motion this side.
Light up the chalice and tell them to Rastafari ever say fancy car. Hands off it clean.